I hope people feel supported in the moment listening to Easy and God Must Hate Me, and they can let that be their place in that song. They can put all their bad feelings in, just cry it out, and just let that be a space for those feelings. And then I also hope that they can look back on those songs and be like, I can't believe I related to that. Oh, look how far I've come.
Catie Turner, welcome to POVz. It is such an honor to have you here, especially after watching you live in action do your thing last night in Brooklyn. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming and thank you for having me.
Of course, and I've even got my proof that I saw Catie Turner button proudly on, and I'm excited to dive into all of the things that make you you. Your new EP came out recently this month, Act 1 of Comedy and Tragedy. How has it been since putting that out into the world, and how would you characterize your journey writing this EP?
It feels so good that it's out in the world. I have the gift of gab, which means I cannot keep my own secrets. And that's kind of the same with music. I've been sitting on this music for so long. Oh, it's torture, just like trying not to leak it and spoil it all the time. So now that it's out, I don't have to deal with that pressure anymore. But also on an artistic standpoint, I'm just so happy it's out. This is kind of a new journey for me sonically.
How would you characterize it?
I feel like for a while I had two sides inside of me, and it was like the comedy and tragedy element, that dichotomy of I knew I was really good at writing just soul crushing songs, but I was like, hey, I do like to have fun. Whenever I tried to like make something more upbeat, it felt too poppy and it didn't feel like me 100%, and I was like, I guess I'll just never be able to do it. And then I feel like this one I kind of found my way of still being sad, but having some movement, having some swing with it.
Love it. And I think the dichotomy of comedy and tragedy really speaks to, I feel, our generation and how we're beautifully able to hold multiple things at once. And I think we also, as a generation, tend to use comedy to cope. Do you feel like there are other areas in your life outside of your music or even depicting your experience with your dad that kind of illustrates that balancing of both comedy and tragedy?
I remember just being online when everyone thought World War III was going to happen, and then everyone was making jokes. And I realized just that really just sums us up as like a generation. Recently, I got my heart broken, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a TikTok about this, and that will be so silly. Yeah, we're going through so much that we kind of have to joke around because you'll either cry if you're not constantly making a joke out of it.
100%, especially growing up in a unique time where we've been through a global pandemic. We're living throughout the era of school shootings. Our mental health collective crisis is on the rise. There's a lot going on. Do you feel like using music or even using humor has kind of helped you cope?
Definitely cope. It's what me and Sophie talked about, my beautiful opener and roommate and best friend. We talked, she was like, when does like a coping mechanism turn into like being self destructive? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, to what extent is it healthy? But yeah, I think it's kind of my only way of coping. You have to keep moving. And I feel like sometimes in this world we live in too, where we have a phone literally in our pocket at all times and instant dopamine and everything's so instant. I feel like I use comedy to kind of keep up with that always on the go kind of, because I feel like I just don't have the time to like feel things.
Absolutely. And I mean, you bring up such an important point, and something we're really exploring this month at the Conversationalist is social media and how we are maybe too much online. Do you feel like your journey as a musician has been impacted by your life on social media? And how have you navigated being so public about the things that you struggle with while also knowing that it is open to criticism when everyone feels that they can have an opinion on social media?
Oh, it's such a great topic to talk about because it's actually something that I've struggled with a lot. In the early days when I was on social media, I was still posting on social media like I was a girl in high school and I was only posting to like 50 classmates. So I was very much myself, saying every thought that popped into my head. And then I feel like it's weird. It's almost like social media, which is supposed to be your most authentic self. What's so funny about like the new era of Instagram, it's supposed to be less curated. It's supposed to be like photo dumps and authenticity, but I feel the least authentic I've ever been. People started making comments, looking into my behaviors, and then you start feeling like, oh wow, oh I guess, okay, yep, Oh no, when you start being like overly critical of yourself to an even more dangerous extent, to the point where I realized I'm like, I don't even know what to tweet anymore. What's a tweet? I don't even think anymore. Like, what's funny? What will people like on social media? I come across as authentic, but at times I feel like I'm not being authentic anymore. I care too much about what people want. I care too much about how other people want to perceive me.
I've been following your journey since 21st Century Machine. Your songwriting strikes a chord so deeply in so many people because it's the reflection of your most inner thoughts. Do you ever struggle with this idea of wanting to put out so much of yourself when it is up for people to critique it? And how do you balance what to share and what not to share?
100%. It's something I constantly struggle with, where when it comes to myself, I have this weird balance inside of me where I constantly am focusing on myself, but I'm also detached from myself. So I can share all my inner darkest secrets. Most of the times I'm not truly feeling them. I do it for the girls who they intellectualize their feelings and they seem very self-aware, but it's because we're not feeling our feelings. Usually when it comes to like songs that relate to how another person made me feel, I get so nervous. I literally want to vomit. Releasing Hometown, which is about somebody who like hurt me in my hometown. I'm like, they're gonna know. Oh my god, I can't put this out. That's definitely been a hard balance. Usually people's comments, like strangers' comments, I'm like, whatever. Real people, like real life people who know me knowing I wrote about them. That's terrifying.
I can't imagine. I mean, even the lyric in that song about only feeling safe in your childhood bedroom when you go home is so relatable, but also so sad. Like, Catie, are there lyrics on this EP that stand out to you that really defines this era of your songwriting? What was the most painful part to write about?
I think comedy and tragedy, the lyric, and there's no joke I can make to bring him back. I think that kind of not only defines this era, it defines who I am as a person, who I joke around to be seen as like the easy girl, the cool girl, the nonchalant girl. Nothing can bother me. You didn't get under my skin on a pain level, too. Comedy and tragedy. The way that song came about was insane because I wrote that the first day my dad started chemotherapy. Yeah, I've always been honest, but like actually feeling your honesty and sitting in it, really rare for me. In the studio recording vocals, my mom called me and said, "Oh, the chemo didn't work and your dad's going on hospice." And that journey as a whole of the song was just insane. And I think that was the most painful but profound piece of music I worked on.
I feel like I'm listening to it every time and uncovering a different lyric that contributed to your experience. And here at The Conversationalist, we're trying to build a movement of young people speaking their minds and using their voices to talk about what really matters. And Catie, something that I am so inspired by you and your music is that you say it as it is. You share your struggles, you share every piece of yourself for the world. Where do you think that started? And was there ever a piece of you that was nervous putting your whole self out there? And what pushed you over the edge that you think would help other young people do the same?
I don't necessarily know where it started because I used to want to say what everyone else wanted me to say. I think a lot of my younger experience was masking. I was the girl that I couldn't bring my friends around each other because I'd be two different people. Chill, like, I'm not like other girls, so I'm gonna talk about how I play video games and everything. And oh my god, they love mermaids, so now we're gonna play mermaids in their pool. And like, I was just playing everyone. I had no sense of self, or I did, but I just was like, my sense of self is wrong and I am flawed and everyone else is right. Honestly, where I think I start getting comfortable speaking my mind is the internet. The internet used to kind of can be seen as like a detriment now. When I was growing up in my like 2013, 2014, it was how I could express myself, finding my community. When I was just in my small town and I had no way of like seeing the world, the internet was my world. And suddenly I was meeting people my age who we all related to the same thing, and it was so amazing. I started getting comfortable myself, and then when I got on American Idol and I saw it was safe to be myself, I wrote 21st Century Machine just for myself. And then when that went out to the world and so many people related to it, I went, oh, okay, cool. I guess we can do this now. Usually how I write songs they are just for myself, but putting it out for the public and speaking my mind in front of many people, still something I'm like easing into.
I hear you so hard on that lack of sense of self and almost that desire to want to shapeshift around different types of people. You are not alone. And I think it's incredibly beautiful that you channeled that into who you are as an artist. I'd be curious to know, as the internet helped form your thoughts and your beliefs and more of that sense of self, do you still feel like today there are some topics that you are unwilling to talk about? Are there things that you're afraid to share your opinion on online, and why?
I think being on American Idol, it's very much like a show with like a middle-aged audience, older generation audience. And I remember it was almost this thing of like, artists sing, musicians do music, and you shut up and do that. I think I'm rebuilding my identity and who I am. And there are topics I want to talk about. If I do want to talk about politics, I do want to share how I'm feeling. And for being a songwriter, it's so funny because sometimes I feel like I struggle with words, or I struggle putting my thoughts into the most efficient and eloquent words and saying the right thing at the right time. I think that's just something I'm reminding myself, that like my feelings don't have to be perfect and there's no perfect way to articulate how you're feeling. And I think that also just goes back into the comedy thing of like, there's so much I want to be angry about in the world.
I'm sure also to some degree, like, you want to make sure that what you're sharing is really how you feel. And I don't know if you feel this way. I sometimes feel like there's pressure just to post or to take an opinion or a point of view on something just because it's what everyone else is doing. I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot lately and wanting to make sure that what I share is really what I believe in. Have you ever felt pressure to speak on something or to share an opinion when maybe you weren't really sure how you felt about it yourself?
100%. Or share it when I feel like I'm not educated on the topic. It's almost that whiplash of like, unfortunately, because we live in America, there's something always happening. And it's that feeling of opening up Instagram and then suddenly you see like something terrible. And then it's feeling almost the clock ticking though, of like, I need to be fully informed right now. Maybe it's a self deprecating thing. And maybe this is me not seeing myself for who I am. Because I think that's also a struggle in social media, of seeing the separation of me as a brand and me as a real person. But how I see myself as a person, I'm like, I just want to be the best for like the job and the best for informing people. And yeah, sometimes I just feel like I'm not.
Absolutely. And it's an interesting question of like, is it better to share something or repost something because it will help raise awareness, but maybe you don't know everything about it? Or is it better to not say anything at all? We want young people to have a voice and be able to speak up about what matters, but we also don't want to encourage people to share things that they aren't the most informed on. I mean, what advice do you have for other Gen Zers navigating this online world? And looking back on your career so far, is there anything that you wish younger Catie knew that you would have done differently?
Don't go on Kick. Okay? Like that doesn't exist anymore for younger Gen
Ooh,
Zers, but
that just like triggered me, Catie. Like, that brought me back.
like there is no reason you should be talking to adults on the internet. What is so cool now, because I feel like, yes, I'm Gen Z, but the internet has shifted. Now kids who are 13 or 14, they literally have a well of information at their fingertips and they know where to get it. It's really easy, like easily accessible. They don't need to go that far to find the words to find what they're looking for, and they can be informed and they can have all the information. And that actually makes me really happy because it is like almost like, all right, we're going to be in good hands. We should be informing ourselves. And that's amazing. I think that what I'd say is, you are a teenager, you're 14, you're 15 or however old, give yourself to some time to be a teen. You do not, and like a child, like you do not need to carry the weight of all the world's problems on your back and on your shoulders. It's informational burnout. Like it's information burnout of a mass shooting, and a nuclear power plant blew up, and this law that's going to kill and endanger all these animals. And by the way, this is happening there and you can't fix it, and you just crumble. And I think it's just like, hey, let yourself obsess over your favorite characters. Let yourself read books. Let yourself listen to music. Like balance. It's all about balance.
Honestly, sometimes I don't even know if balance exists, but I think it's something that we should all be striving for. That was amazing advice for your younger self. I'd also love to know what you would share with younger Catie when it comes to your self-love journey. because I know you've been so vocal about your journey with disordered eating. Even last night, watching you ask people if they've ever felt like a burden, everyone's hand shot up. And I know that is so important to talk about. How has your journey with self love and your own self image evolved over the past few years?
I've been working towards self neutrality first. I think in extremes. So it's words like always, never. They call it zebra thinking. I was like, I either hate myself or I need to fully love myself at all times. Like, think I am the most beautiful, funny, amazing person ever, or I hate myself. And obviously that wasn't working. I've been working more towards self neutrality, self acceptance in the way of like, I can't hate myself into loving myself. That's not how it works. Now I just try to offer myself some grace and some slack. And it's not perfect. Just even saying to yourself, I understand why I feel that way. Instead of being like, why do I feel this way? I shouldn't feel this way. Oh my God, this is my body. This is who I am. And this is my brain. And I can work on things to improve my brain, but I can't buy a new one.
And we all get so caught up in that zebra thinking. Everything is so black and white, right or wrong, left or right. And I think you're exactly right, Catie. Where is that nuance? Where is the gray? We don't have to either fully love who we are or fully hate ourselves, but that can evolve. And I'm so grateful that you shared that. When people are listening to Easy or God Must Hate Me, those hit hard. What do you hope the people listening that are struggling with those things just the same take away? And if the message is self neutrality or body neutrality, how do you hope people engage with those songs in this new era?
I hope people feel supported in the moment listening to Easy and God Must Hate Me, and they can let that be their place in that song. They can put all their bad feelings in, just cry it out, and just let that be a space for those feelings. And then I also hope that they can look back on those songs and be like, I can't believe I related to that. Oh, look how far I've come. I hope people don't relate to those songs for the rest of their lives. I hope it finds them at the right time and then they grow past it and they can just look back at it with like fondness for themselves.
And do you hope that for yourself too, in being able to look back? Or do you see those issues continuing to be a part of how you grow throughout your life?
100%. I feel like I've already grown past God Must Hate Me in a way where I can appreciate it for what it was. And I really wrote that from like an unhealed part of myself that I never even gave the platform to speak and be heard. So it was so needed and necessary for me to write that. But now I look back at it and I'm like, wow, like I've come a long way. Like I don't feel that way now.
I hope that when people watch our conversation and when people continue to listen to your EP, that they do take away that vulnerability that you're inspiring among so many people, right? To me, on the other end of this, consuming your music, it encourages not only me, but people around me to share that vulnerability and even take that first step to just name it. How cathartic was that to just put it on paper, say it out loud, have that conversation, and then maybe that's where the work starts, right? You have to name it first. I just want to say thank you because so much of your music does that for me and for so many others.
That genuinely means the world. Thank you.
As you said, your music continues to evolve in the way that you are evolving as a person. Do you still feel like you are, or that we all are, cogs in a 21st century machine?
100%.
And how do we navigate that? Is that something we should be working against, or do we just have to accept that in the world we live in?
I feel like it's a balance. I think it's something that if we're mindful of it, we can start making little tweaks, but I feel like it's just an issue bigger than us. I don't know, maybe we just all rebel. We all just pick a time, pick a place, and we all just say, fuck this.
I mean, hey, I'm down. I mean, you're asking the real questions. We have to figure out ways to have these conversations. And I know so much of Comedy and Tragedy Act 1 is also tapping into your inner theater kid, which of course I can relate to. I know there's an Act 2 coming. What do we need to know now that we're wrapping Act 1 and heading into Act 2?
You're still going to get a lot of my brain, more Katie Turner songs.
I mean, is Act 2 any more tragedy or any more comedy, headed into that finale, if you will? Is it anything we need to be prepared for?
Well, you can lower your tissues. There's not any dead dad songs on that EP, so do not worry. Dry your eyes. It's more like self-discovery, more internal, going deeper, becoming the villain Who knows?
Are acts 1 and 2 reminiscent of any of your favorite musicals?
No. But what is your favorite musical?
I was going to ask you the same. This is a very controversial question, Catie. I think I always go between some arrangement of Wicked, Hairspray, some Hamilton, some Evan Hansen, but I don't know. It evolves. I feel like I'm a soundtrack girly, so I'll binge something for a while and then go to the next thing. What about you?
First of all, Hairspray. Yes, your choices. Mwah. Heathers. I really like Heathers. I know it's a movie and then it was like turned into a play, but Anastasia. I so
Ooh,
good. Once upon
Journey to the Past.
Once upon a December, and the way like I think the girl who played Anastasia in the first one was Christy.
Altamaro or something.
Oh my god! And I just saw that musical, and I just like fell in love with everything.
I know we're gonna be friends. I just went to the Tonys last weekend and changed
Oh
my
my
life.
god!
Story for another time. But anyways, Catie, my last question for you as we wrap up this conversation, drop us a hot take.
God, I need my best friend. This I hate olives. I think they're the worst food
I
ever.
think they're delicious.
Okay, yeah,
personally.
whatever.
Okay, Catie, we always like to understand people's points of view here. Why do you hate olives? Was there an experience that defined this for you?
The texture, I just think, why are they so slimy? They shouldn't be slimy. Also, fuck grapefruit. Why isn't it sweet? It should be sweet if it's a fruit. Why is it sour? Hate that.
Thank you for dropping that hot take. Sophie, thank you for guest starring. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you both more soon, follow you on the tour. Thank you both so much for being here on POVz today. You are both icons.
Thank you. I love meeting you. It's so fun
You
to talk.
More to come. Many more conversations about Broadway, about hot takes, and about your beautiful, gorgeous, stunning music. And good luck with the rest of the tour.
Oh my god, Sophie, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.